Hi, this is Eliza Inkberry with Gothic Gardening at Darkside University. This is an extra video for week 4, and it's kind of a odds and ends video. Some of it is things that I've discussed with students. Some of it is just ideas that I couldn't quite figure out how to fit them into one of the other lessons, and a lot of it is plants, weird plants and quirky ideas that you might want to use. So the plant that is pictured here is called a goldfish plant, and it probably grows outside for some of you if you're in a warm enough range, but most people use it as a house plant. And I know some of the students are not getting a lot out of big garden lessons because they don't have the space to grow like that. So I was trying to think of some smaller ideas, not the entire video, but this is one of them for people who don't have room for anything but some potted plants. And I like goldfish plant. It's really easy to grow. It's called that because the flowers remind people of goldfish with the little gulping mouths and the fat bellies. So close up and you can kind of see the goldfish resemblance there. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if you actually planted it in, say, a vintage goldfish bowl? So maybe if you could find one on eBay or somewhere like that, or you could perhaps make something to look like it was a vintage goldfish bowl. And then if you planted it in there, you should put some rocks in the bottom so that when you water it, you can kind of watch and make sure the water level's not too high down there, because you're not going to have a hole in it unless you have the ability to drill a hole so it has a drainage hole. You're not going to have a hole in it, and you don't want it to be sitting in water or it's not going to do very well. But there's a lot of vintage goldfish bowl ideas out there, so maybe one of these will work. And so let's see. The next one that I wanted to talk about were lychee tomatoes. They are a nightshade and they're very thorny, but they have a delicious fruity flavor. And so they're kind of a cool, creepy plant to grow. They kind of look like Seymour or something. You can see here all the spines and the lychee tomato is developing in there, and it ends up being kind of this prickly fruit that you can eat if you're careful. Wear gloves when you pick them. So you can get those seeds through Baker Creek, and they're delicious and very easy to grow. Black shamrocks or purple shamrocks is another one that you may not know about. It's not a nitrogen fixer. People mix up shamrocks with clover, and I've talked about nitrogen fixing plants before. They have beneficial symbiotic relationships with bacteria. They trade carbohydrates and sugars from the sun that they photosynthesize with the plant, and the plant, with the bacteria. The plant trades it with the bacteria, and then the bacteria trades nitrogen that it's fixed from the air to the plant because that's the nutrient it needs most. But this is an oxalis, which is a shamrock, and they have oxalic acid in them. Some people call them wood sorrel, certain ones, and some people eat them. But it's a pretty easy to grow plant. If you have a lot of heat or humidity, sometimes you get some problems with rust, which is a fungal disease they get. But for the most part, they're pretty simple. And this is a mass planting of a dark colored one here. Dahlias with black leaves are a really commonly bred thing now, and you can look that up. It has a lot of different flower colors. You can get kind of a wine blood red, you can get pinks and whites, there's some yellows and oranges, so that's something to look for if you wanted something that's just a nice ornamental that are easy to grow. One thing about dahlias is they do tend to sprawl. Some of them have better form than others, but you may want to have some sort of small metal fencing or something that you can just kind of put around them, something short, no more than 1.5 feet high, and it will kind of bunch the leaves together so that they don't flop all over the place and look kind of sparse. So if you want this kind of thick foliage look and the plant's not growing that way, you can kind of trellis it in to or fence it in to get it to do that a little better. And here's another really nice cactus type black dahlia. It's more of a wine red. Black bamboo. You can look and see if there are any clumping black bamboos. I'm not sure on that. If you are growing bamboo, just bear in mind that it's going to spread. And if you harvest it a lot, if you use it for things, you use the poles in the garden, you give the poles to friends, you can even make mason bee houses and things like that out of them. Then you're not going to have that much trouble with it. But the problem with most of us today is we buy all of our building materials, so we don't use bamboo for what people traditionally used it for, and then the patch gets out of hand because we're not pruning it enough. But if you want to contain it, it can even bust through pavement to some degree. So it's the easiest thing to contain it with is water. If you have kind of an island of water, maybe you have some sort of water feature, it won't go through deep enough water. But other than that, it's like I think I've heard 3 feet wide and 3 feet deep concrete moats will keep it in, but I'm not going to personally do that to my landscape. This is Magnolia Figo. For a while it was called Michelia Figo, and then once I learned that name, they go and change it on me. I have this shrub, and mine looks kind of like this. And it is interesting because it's a small shrub. It doesn't get that big. And it has the look of a magnolia. So if you wanted a grand magnolia look in your yard but you didn't have the room, you could grow this. It's hardy to about zone 7. And it has a really interesting banana scent to the flowers, like a very strong ripe banana smell. So if you don't like bananas, this may not be the plant for you. But it's a really pretty magnolia type plant, and there's a dark purple variety that you can get, and then a close to white kind of cream, very magnolia looking flower. I went to look up milk and wine crenums, and there were so many options that I couldn't bring myself to edit it because I wanted you to see all of the cool kind of flowers you can have. And I always think of New Orleans when I see these because I always see them there, but they grow really well for me here. This is kind of the traditional milk and wine crenum that I think of when I think of a milk and wine crenum. Some of them have different names, but that's kind of the southern pass along name for them. And there's just a lot of different options with crenum lilies. I love these kind of spidery looking ones, so that's something you may want to look into. This is Harlequin glorybower. It's kind of a funky name for a plant, and I have one growing down the street from me and couldn't figure out what it was because at the time I saw it, it was flowering like this, and I'd only ever seen these, which are very noticeable, seed pods. Or just seeds, but this is what the flowers look like. They smell nice, hummingbirds like them. It's a bigger shrub, so it's not a very small plant. And then it has these weird alien starfish creature seeds on it later that are very eye-catching. A plant that I have in my yard is Hartsabustin, and it's similar in some ways. It has this kind of spiny fuchsia backing and then these red seeds that's supposed to be the heart bursting its heart's blood out. And it's a native plant in South Carolina and in most of the southeast, and it has really good fall foliage. And this is what the flowers look like. They're pretty nondescript and kind of hard to notice, but you definitely notice these in the fall because they stand out. And then the foliage turns a really pretty color. This is blackberry lily. There's the most common ones are kind of yellow and orange, but you can find some that are kind of this reddish tint to it, and they have these cool black seed pods that look like blackberries, and they stay on the plant for a really long time. They do reseed pretty heavily, but a lot of people like to have these so you can give them away, and they're easy to pull and put in compost if you don't want them. This was one of the students' posts in the blogs, and I was so excited when I saw it because I'm always leaving my tools all over the garden and leaving my rolling bench out, and I don't like to walk all the way back to the shed to get my tools if I just want to quickly prune something. And I always have like 5 pairs of pruners and however many spades. So I really like the idea of recycling a mailbox to put the tools in somewhere in the middle of the garden. But that also got me thinking, what else could you use that would be waterproof? Or, you could use some tools that maybe didn't matter as much to you if they were getting wet every once in a while. Although, if they're going to get wet, why bother protecting them? Um, but I was thinking you could possibly adapt a thrift store find of a dollhouse to have cubbies, and maybe paint it with something waterproof so that you could leave that out in the garden, and you might also get the added benefit of, say, bird's nest or something on the side of it. That might be cool. Or you could put a door on it, and so you'd have to kind of open it like a cabinet to get things out of it. And you could also use a lantern that has a latch on it. You may have to do some waterproofing to the top, but some of them already come kind of waterproof because the idea is to keep a candle dry. And this is a really cool one that would be kind of fun. And if you were storing your tools in that, nobody would really know because the glass wouldn't really show what was in there, and it would just be a cool garden ornament that you'd have. So I hope that these are some ideas that you find inspiring, and I hope that people will continue posting things because I get excited when I find out things like that. And so I'm looking forward to talking to you in class.